Missionary Bob McCulley stood under a thorn tree in Kenya, Africa, giving out food to the hungry mothers and their children. One particular lady caught his eye. She was carrying a baby on her back. That was not unusual. Babies were always carried around on their mothers' backs by means of a large shawl. But what was unusual was the baby seemed rather large, too old to still be carried on her mother's back. Bob turned to Isaiah Satonik, the local Maasai pastor, and asked him about her. Pastor Isaiah went to talk with the woman. Bob soon lost sight of the woman as so many people came to him, hoping to receive a bit of food to help them through the month. It was like this all over Kenya. The country was suffering from drought, and the people were starving. So every month Bob would get into his car and drive from village to village bringing food for the hungry. Usually he set up in the shade of a Pentecostal church, but sometimes there was no church building, so he would set under a thorn tree to distribute the food. During this trip, new missionaries Kevin and Miriam Smith joined Bob in distributing lentils, oil, and cornmeal to every family. Children who were at risk of dying were given hope and a chance to live. While Bob gave out physical food, the local Maasai pastors would hold services, bringing spiritual food to hungry souls. Before long, Bob saw Pastor Isaiah making his way through the crowd with the woman and her child at his side. Pastor Isaiah said to Bob, "This child has been crippled from birth. He has never walked. Sometimes he crawls, but mostly he has to be carried everywhere." Then Pastor Isaiah added, "I told this woman that God was going to heal her son and that Kevin would pray for him." Remember, Kevin was the new missionary. Bob looked at Kevin, who had a worried expression on his face. Kevin said, "I haven't had much experience with laying on hands on anyone and praying for healing." "You'll do fine," Bob said. "It's God who does the miracles." And so Kevin laid hands on the boy, and the three men prayed that he would be healed. Nothing happened at that moment. The mother collected her ration of food for the month and took her boy home. 1 month later, as Bob returned with the next month's supply of food, as he began to set up and prepare to hand out food, he noticed a little boy playing with the other children. He was running across the field. Something caught his eye about the boy. He looked somehow familiar. Pastor Isaiah came up to Bob and said, "Do you recognize that boy?" Bob said, "I'm not sure." To him, the boy was just one more dusty Maasai child. Isaiah said, "That is the little boy Kevin Smith prayed for last month. Just a few days after his prayer, his legs began to straighten and they began to gain strength. And the whole area is stirred up with the healing of this boy who has never walked before." Today, in every community where Bob once did food distribution under thorn trees, there is now a Pentecostal church. Bob remembers having dropped everything else in order to do that famine intervention. Now when Bob looks back on it, he realizes they planted more churches that year than any other year, because as they gave out the food, God did the miraculous. The work of missionaries is more than just preaching. It involves being God's hands and God's feet, bringing food to the hungry, healing to the sick. Because of God's love being shown in physical ways, His word is spreading all over Kenya.